The views expressed on the Warren and Bradley show are not necessarily those held by the hosts, Warren and Bradley, nor those of the proprietors of the website, warrenandbradley.com.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Let's make some magic.
It is magic time. Hello, and welcome once again to the Warren and Bradley Show. I am one of your hosts, Bradley Victor.
I'm the other host, Warren.
It is episode 36 of the Warren and Bradley Show, coming at you from Bellingham, Washington.
Yeah.
How have you been, Warren? What's been going on?
Oh, I've been fine. Been to a couple baseball games this week.
Baseball games? What baseball games?
I went and saw our local team, the Bellingham Bells, play, and they were victorious over the Kelowna something or others.
What division is? I mean, it's minor league, but it's
It's college baseball players. It's what they do during the summer.
Okay.
So, like, you may have heard of the Cape Cod League.
No.
Which is the most famous of the college baseball leagues that goes under in the summer. It's like that, and they have it all over the country. So
it's not a minor league farm team.
No, because
like that.
if you're an NCAA athlete, you can't actually accept money for sports.
Oh.
So it's what they do. They stay in people's houses, I think. They have like host families, and they play baseball all summer in Bellingham or God knows where else. Kelowna.
Maybe I should be a host family for one of these baseball players.
I don't think it'd be inappropriate. It seems awful. Well, we were talking about that when we were at the game. Like, if you were a college baseball player and then you're like went to like Bend, Oregon to spend the summer with some random family, how awkward that would be.
Yeah, that would be very awkward.
You're like 20 and you're just hanging out with this family and you don't have any like of your own space and you don't have a car or anything probably.
Yeah.
You're just hanging out in Bend and you get on the bus and go to baseball games in Walla Walla every once in a while.
So baseball. I don't think I've ever gone to see a Bellingham Bells game in my life.
I've been to a few now. It's a nice activity. They have Dinger is the mascot of Bellingham Bells. He's a
baseball.
He's not a baseball. I forget what it is. He's a gerbil or a hedgehog or something.
Okay.
Or a mouse. No, he's a mouse. Because he's supposed to go up and ring the bells. You know what I mean? A bell.
When somebody makes a dinger.
Yeah, exactly, or something like that. And so the children love him, and they follow him around and try to like punch him in the ass and stuff. What children always do to mascots? The mascots walk around, don't see the children right in front of them, and almost crush them with their feet because they have a giant like mouse head on. That's all pretty entertaining.
We went to Disneyland when I was a year old or something like that. I obviously have no memory of it, but the whole mascot thing, you always see little kids harassing mascots and punching them in the balls and things. And there's just a series of pictures of me with Goofy and Donald Duck, me crying hysterically whenever they were near me. And then there's one picture of me clenching on to Goofy's whiskers and yanking them as hard as I can. And his head is kind of like almost coming off. I don't know how freakishly strong I was as a 1-year-old. And then there's another one of me like hitting Donald Duck in the bill repeatedly.
They're scary.
I was freaked. Apparently I was horrified.
I think when I was a small child, I think I got to the point where I knew they were just like, people making minimum wage with the mask on. But before that, they're creepy. It's like a giant mouse with a shirt on.
I don't see why any children would be into that. I was afraid of crazy homeless people who played Santa Claus in various local businesses when I was a kid as well.
It feels like a trick. Same thing with the mascots, right? It's like, I know you're just some dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, you might have a plastic mask on or something, but I'm not going to like play into this ruse you have going on.
Yeah.
I also went and saw the Seattle Mariners yesterday.
No.
Beat the Kansas City Royals in a very close game.
Yeah. I don't follow baseball at all. I know that they usually suck.
They've been terrible for years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
I've been in a slightly better mood the last week. I'm sure all our listeners will be pleased to hear that.
Yeah.
But actually, I think it's more entertaining when I'm in a bad mood because more amusing things happen to me, or at least amusing to people from the outside looking in. Tried to go out Friday night. Had an okay time. This isn't a street freak of the week. We actually don't have one this week.
Oh,
but there was an encounter with a homeless man that was actually very sad. And so it's not something that we'd be about. I was walking downtown on Friday night and saw a figure approaching me from down the block, just reeling and staggering down the side of the street. When I came equal to him on the sidewalk, he sort of pitched forward and hit himself against a tree that was planted in the sidewalk and then went and fell over to the ground, vomited, and then started crying.
Oh.
Just sobbing. It's like, oh boy. And he was obviously, you know, an older homeless guy. Like, okay, what can I do here? Because we were close to the lighthouse mission, and I don't know.
What are you going to do? Pick him up, bring him to the mission?
Well,
and he was drunk, too. You can't,
that's the
you can't
thing.
get in
Well,
there.
I didn't realize that at the time.
What do you mean you didn't realize that at the time? What did you think was wrong with him?
Well, no, I knew he was drunk, but
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
know about. Well, I kind of. It didn't occur to me at the time that taking him to the lighthouse mission wasn't the best thing.
I think
but
it's the
was
only rule there.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, okay, he's near there. Maybe he was trying to go there. There's other homeless people there. Maybe something. I don't know. So I asked him what was wrong. He was incoherent, just crying and talking about, I don't know. He was trying to say something, but he just wasn't making any sense. So I did help him up, and I took him to the lighthouse mission.
Oh, really?
There were a bunch of homeless people outside who were obviously of no help, and then somebody who worked there came out, and they didn't say anything about the no drunkenness policy, and I just kind of handed him over and was like, this guy, I don't know, he needs some help. And then as I was walking away, that did occur to me that you're not supposed to be drunk, you're not supposed to have any alcohol there. So I'm thinking they probably just called the police and made him go to detox or something.
I don't know. They may have just left him on the steps and let him sober up or something.
Maybe. So I don't know. I don't know if I did him a favor or not, but
It was, your heart was in the right place.
yeah, I guess. I also had a nice awkward experience when I was out Friday. A mutual friend of ours who's very into nutrition, and we've talked about on the show before. It wasn't her, but I thought it was her. I was walking up to a club with a friend and saw someone from the rear, and I was like, oh, that's our friend.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could see the dark hair, I could see glasses. And so I approached, and she was sort of standing in the walkway to get into the club. And so I went and like put my arm around her as like a hello, and also to sort of jokingly push her out of my way, which I did. And then it turns around, I was like, and it was not her.
Yeah.
The familiarity of my gesture apparently appealed to this woman who I did not know. And she was like, oh. I went, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were somebody else. And, you know, just went into the bar, didn't think anything of it. But then for the rest of the night, she kept coming near me and like sort of, hello, like gazing at me longingly. And it was very horribly awkward. I couldn't, even though I'd given her an explanation as to why I
You actually told her what had occurred. In your mind.
Exactly.
Okay.
But she, I guess in her mind, thought that I was lying and that was actually just trying to have sex with her.
This was like your move to get her attention, but then you got bashful after you had done that?
Perhaps. I don't know.
It's not the... Well, see, it worked. You got her attention. It's not the worst move ever, right? Do you have somebody... Because what it does is says to the person that you know people, that you have friends, and that's always good for people.
But I don't recognize them.
And also that you're courteous, because you're like, oh, I apologize. I made a mistake, you know?
Yeah.
And you walk away. And they probably... You at least get in there, like...
Well, I definitely manhandled her. I mean, and I guess this move would work maybe depending on the relative attractiveness of the two people involved. If I am much more attractive than the person I'm manhandling...
Are you claiming that was the scenario this time? Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah. Maybe that is something that could work. It's the whole thing we've talked about before, the going up to random people and kissing them.
Yeah.
And if you're an ugly freak monkey and you do that to somebody, then you're going to get slapped in the face. But if you're, you know, George Clooney, who's attractive? Who do women
let's
like?
go back to Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig? No.
Yeah.
God damn it. If you're somebody who women find attractive and you just, like, plant one on them, they'll probably be fine.
Yeah. Speaking of Daniel Craig, Friday night I actually spent watching the Olympic opening ceremonies.
Yes, I was going to mention this because I did not watch them. And actually, is it entertaining in any way?
In, like, watching something that's completely ridiculous. It's entertaining.
I heard it wasn't quite as crazy as the Beijing opening ceremony.
I don't think I watched the Beijing one. This thing seemed just absurd and very expensive and pointless.
Well, I think people were kind of disturbed by the Beijing one because it was just tens of thousands of Chinese people being forced into this like crazy automaton spectacle.
Yeah, Danny Boyle was apparently put this one on.
Famous director of Slumdog Millionaire and
Trainspotting. He and Kenneth Branagh was out there.
Yeah.
And they sort of did this thing where they were taking agrarian England and they transformed it into industrial England. And then they had like these two youths who like represented the internet age and they were trying to like meet each other. And this, I summarized this in a couple seconds. This went on for hours.
Yeah.
And it was just like lights and like flashing and like people moving around in costumes that didn't make any sense. And then Matt Lauer and Meredith Vieira making inane comments. Every once in a while they're reading off a sheet. Just unending. So eventually you get to the part where actually the athletes come in.
Right.
And they come in by country, and that actually was pretty good.
They have their little outfits on.
They have their little outfits on, and it shows like where they're from, what the population of the country is, and how many athletes they have.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, that's pretty good. New Zealand, unbelievable amount of athletes for being such a small country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is jumping off cliffs and doing all sorts of
They
crazy
must be,
things.
because Australia was that way too. Whereas
Yeah.
some of these other countries, Indonesia barely had any athletes.
So what was our uniform? What did we look like when we marched out there?
Our uniform was very controversial.
Really?
Tommy Hilfiger apparently designed our uniform, and the controversy stemmed from the fact that they were actually manufactured in China, which he had to apologize for. And we looked kind of like, I don't know, waspy little like twinks walking in. I don't know. They had these little like coats on and stuff. And it wouldn't be what I would have chosen for them.
What would you have chosen?
That's a good question. I have no idea. Maybe I just have them wear their athletic garb.
Is it like athletic gear, or are they like little suits or something?
They wore little like suits, little like preppy suits, like they were going to go to like
with like straw hats with a band around the brim.
It was that kind of look to it. I don't know if they had hats, but it was that kind of
boating attire.
Yeah, it was boating attire. And I mean, some of the other countries had like some of their native clothing they would wear, and there's some of these countries that aren't doing so well only had like two guys, and they walk in and they're wearing their weird outfit, and everyone claps for them. A couple countries I'd never heard of.
Really?
That's always exciting.
Like what?
I can't even remember. There's a couple islands that I was like, I've never heard of that island. And it maybe had like 8,000 people, and they had a couple athletes.
What's the deal if you're like a protectorate of a country? Can you...
Well, Puerto Rico has its own team.
Oh, they do? Okay.
I think they're pretty liberal with who they allow to have their own teams. The odd thing is...
Could we have our own team?
But Washington?
No, us.
Oh, us? Well, they did have unattached athletes, too. There were like 4 or 5 of them.
Really?
Who, because there was like some sort of like visa situation or citizenship situation for them, they weren't able to join a country's team.
Right.
So they were just walking into it. People were clapping for them. Yeah, actually, Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland like to compete independently of England. But this year, because it's in London, they actually have Team GB. So everyone in Great Britain was on one team.
Oh, wow.
This time. All these other little like countries that are little protectorates, Guam and whatnot, you wouldn't think would have their own team, do have their own team. American Samoa.
Yeah. Really? Yeah. Is there a pork eating section of the Olympics?
They're huge, though. I mean, they could be weightlifters. They or sumo wrestling. I guess sumo wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling or something.
Wasn't one of the champion sumo wrestlers a Samoan guy for a while?
Yeah, I do remember that because the Japanese weren't crazy about that. I think.
Yeah, something he's well suited for, though.
Yeah, but that went on, and then of course there are like 200 of them.
Yeah,
and so I thought this was going to go on forever, but it went actually pretty fast. And Bob Costas, who was doing the play-by-play on it, kind of saying his anecdotes about the countries, was really like, this is the fastest one I've ever seen. He's like, I've been to 18 Olympics. I've never seen anything like this. He was so pleased that the procession of countries is coming through so quickly. Because I had assumed, too, it was going to go on till like 2 o'clock in the morning and just be this unending.
Well, it's sort of like at a wedding with the bridal party coming in. You're like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Everything that you think is going to take like 10 minutes takes an hour, and it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. It really just zipped right along.
So have you watched any of the actual events yet?
No, I haven't. I think I might watch something.
I have not watched any Olympics since I was a little child, and I don't really think I'm missing much.
I remember watching the '88 Seoul Games.
Yeah,
I remember
that's the only one I think I've ever been aware of and paid any attention to.
Yeah, I can remember that being a big deal because when I was a kid, it was the Olympics, and you had to pay attention. And the Dream Team, of course, in '92 in Barcelona was very exciting.
Oh, yeah.
But other than that, I've never been much of an Olympic fan.
I don't know. The whole thing just seems very odd to me, especially the fact that some of the most esoteric events where you're somebody who's training your entire young adult life to become an Olympic athlete in, like, I don't know, throwing the discus or something. Yeah. What the fuck do you do with that later? There's no professional discus league or anything like that. And you're not going to get a hell of a lot of endorsements for being the best discus thrower in the world. It's just, I don't know.
It's not a pursuit I would encourage my children to go into. Because it is just like a lot of... with the gymnastics. Yeah. You get pulled out of school as a small child and just made to do gymnastics constantly.
Well, and it stunts your growth, too. And it's not... I always thought that gymnasts were just naturally short little people, and that if you suddenly hit a growth spurt, they'd be like, all right, you're off the team. Yeah. But it literally makes it so you don't hit puberty as early as you normally would have, just because of the physical exertion involved, I
thought
guess.
It was physical exertion and probably the diet and
the weight as well. And then it also... I was listening to... who was it, Candace Bailey or something, who's now a host on G4 TV. I guess she was a gymnast when she was a kid and was trying to get on the Olympics. That was her whole dream. And then her coach moved away or something like that. And so she quit gymnastics and grew 6 inches as soon as she quit doing gymnastics. And apparently it's true. Like, your bone mass and everything is held in check when you're actually competing as a gymnast. So you become a little freak person. I don't know if you would ever get as tall as you normally would have if you hadn't been a gymnast and then you quit. Or
it seems like a ridiculous pursuit.
Yeah.
Because as the teams were walking into the Olympic Stadium and Costas was talking about them, he was mentioning, some of the teams that had been disappointed during the '08 Olympics in Beijing about their medal count, and they're like, well, Vladimir Putin's put a couple $1 billion into this, they're going to resolve this like medal problem.
Right.
By pulling people out of school and forcing them to like compete at these sports that no one cares about really. Just so they can get more medals?
Well, and that's the other thing, too, where there are certain countries who kind of game the system. I remember, wasn't China involved in some controversy before because they were lying about ages?
Yes, they had gymnasts who were way too young to be competing.
Yeah.
And the Germans didn't do so well last year, too. And they've pushed to be more aggressive about getting their medal count up. But, of course, that brings back memories of the East German team with the women with mustaches of years past. And
testosterone.
Nobody wants to see that again,
No.
I mean, you will be better. You will be faster, but at what cost,
I'm surprised they don't have, like, post-op, like people...
Well, you remember that person, the South African runner?
No.
You ever heard about her?
No.
This has been going on for a couple of years now, the controversy about her gender. And eventually, the IOC allowed her to compete, so she was carrying the flag for South Africa.
So that's not fair.
Gender is a difficult thing, apparently, to figure out.
Well, but it should be what you're born as is what you compete as. Because that is a huge unfair advantage. If you were male and now you're female, and suddenly you're competing amongst a bunch of other females, that's not fair.
Doesn't seem fair to me either. I don't know if she was born intersex. I just remember there was a lot of debate about her gender.
I mean, it might be fair if I were to go and, like, compete in some of the women's events, but,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You can be, like, a really good track athlete, but not Olympic level male, but you would dominate the female track and field. Yeah.
Maybe that's something we should look into.
Change our genders to try to become great discus throwers.
It's amazing that we can talk so much about something that holds no interest to me whatsoever.
Oh, I know. It holds no interest, but we did grow up with it, and it was a part of, like, our childhood. And, I mean, there were Wheaties boxes with all these people on them, and people become very popular for a couple weeks at a time, then everyone forgets about them forever after that.
Yeah.
Who was the speed skater who, like, slipped that one time?
Apollo Ono.
No. From years ago.
Oh.
He was a white guy.
I don't know.
I can't remember, and it was really sad. Because his sister had died of cancer.
Pretty much any question you ask me about sports, the answer will be, I don't know.
Yeah.
Should we get into some listener feedback?
Let's do it.
All right.
Dear Warren and Bradley, I'm writing this missive to let you know that I was utterly delighted with last week's episode. Your tales of prostitutes and the indigent are always quite illuminating, and I say, could you turn off that racket? Turn it off, I say! What are you doing? Can't hear myself making this ridiculous noise.
Listener feedback on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Alrighty, let's get into listener feedback here. We have a message from Brandon in New York City. He says, if you be so gracious as to address this question on your show. I enjoy listening to the Warren and Bradley show as it gives whatever I'm doing a more classic feel. It seems radio is nearly dead and podcasts have taken over the niche which radio used to fill. Besides for creating a radio show, are there any other classic activities or fads that you or Warren find yourself doing or at least thinking about doing? Thanks, Brandon. I can't.
I don't understand the question.
I think what he's saying is that podcasting as a medium is taking over what radio used to be. And radio to him is something that's kind of old school. It's people talking, where I think there was a period in the early 2000s where radio was kind of dying in terms of people just on a daily basis tuning in to hear news, to hear just the things that were going on that week, that day. And now podcasts are sort of taking over that niche. And to him, I guess he thinks it has sort of a classic feel, like sort of an old school kind of mode of communication that's now being updated into a modern way of doing things. And my interpretation of the question is, are there other things that are classic? Like, I don't know, I can think of an example myself where I like to shave in a classic manner. Or like, think of like Wes Anderson movies, which you hate, I know. But he's kind of obsessed with analog. Like he'll decorate his sets with like analog technology, old record players, old like rotary phones and things like that. Do you have any sort of nostalgia for that kind of thing? Things that you might not even have experienced because we're young enough that a lot of these things didn't exist anymore. But do you ever like harken back Are there things that you want to try to bring back?
I'll say this about what the technology has done that's improved the classic things that I always enjoyed in the past, is it's actually made things more accessible and better. Television in the past was difficult to watch because you had to watch it at a specific time.
Yes.
And I still watch television, but now I watch it when I feel like watching it in a better way.
Right.
I used to listen to a lot of talk radio. I was a big fan of talk radio when I was a kid. And it was actually a lot of it's terrible.
Oh, yeah.
And there are a lot of commercials. And it's mostly just, like, especially sports talk radio, right? Is some blowhard gets on there and is like, tries to make a controversial statement about a pitcher. And you're like, God, this is boring. He's just trying to ramp up a bunch of, like, meathead listeners. And then they call in and yell at him, and he yells back at them.
Right.
And hearing people call up a radio station to argue about something that doesn't matter at all, then yell at each other about it for an hour, for the life of me, can't figure out why anyone would do that.
Right.
But I do like listening to people talk.
Yeah.
And podcasts are better. There's no commercials. There's less of that, like, pandering to the lowest common denominator of people who just want to hear people yelling at each other about relief pitchers, which is not something I want to listen to. Or I never want to listen to a show where people are calling in.
Well, I think we live in a great era now where you're able to just cherry pick all your entertainment and also just whatever you're into, because this is the information age.
Yes.
And whereas in the past, technologically, musically, as far as entertainment went, you were kind of stuck with whatever was there.
Yeah.
And you were forced to consume whatever was put on your plate. You had to eat it. Now I can say, you know what? I don't want to use this disposable Bic razor anymore. I go on the internet. I find a forum where people talk about old style shaving techniques.
Yes.
I read up on it. I go buy myself a badger bristle brush and some, like, shaving soap in a little ceramic dish, and I go get an old fashioned safety razor, and I can shave. I like the idea of taking your time to do things and doing them well, things that now are sort of skipped over, male grooming being one example. I like listening to records. Pretty much all the music I consume is either digital or on record. If I buy an album, I buy a record. I don't buy... Because usually now, if you buy a record that... And it's usually indie bands who put out records, and I usually like indie bands. They'll always include a digital download or free digital download for the album. So when I'm actually, sitting around in my apartment, I can put on the record, and then when I'm on the go, I can have the MP3.
Well, it gets back to the thing of we've been, evolving and making things, in a sense, more efficient, but oftentimes more complex. And just because something changes doesn't always mean it's better.
Right.
Just because you, like, pile more things on, and saying you're making things simpler doesn't always make things simpler.
Well, yeah, and I think you lose a lot of the satisfaction that comes from ritual. If you get up, you jump in the shower, you, like, rub an electric razor over your face, you're out the door in 10 minutes, yes, but I take a certain comfort, like, when I make coffee. I don't have an automatic coffee machine. I use a French press. Like, I grind beans, I throw them in there. It's a whole ritual of making the coffee, and not only do I think it tastes better, but it's kind of a calming sort of, you get lost in the event. You're not just getting coffee, you're making coffee, and you're enjoying the process of making coffee.
It's a more natural way to do things, maybe.
I think so.
The way we, just slowly do these things, and now with, these iPods, these YouTubes, people want this instant gratification, and they're constantly getting it all the time. Zing, zap, boom, bang, constantly. Whereas all that does is kind of like, I think it ends up stressing people out quite a bit.
I think so, too.
That's why people go to beaches and hang out in cabins with no TV when they go on vacation, which is basically being stuck on a desert island. If their plane had crashed when they were going to a business meeting, it would be a disaster. But actually, they're paying to go there because it is, like, a nice, relaxing thing where they get to, like, think, reflect, lay around, and sort of, like, let their mind process what they've been, like, taking on for weeks.
I definitely think people are sort of reacting to this modern society that we have by going back and reclaiming some of these classic things and sort of pulling, because you think about people's lives in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, our lives aren't any better than they were then. And in some ways, I think they're a lot worse because we are, we sort of talked about this when we were talking about screen time on our last listener feedback section. You don't need to constantly be plugged in, and you need to sort of take a little time out every once in a while. Smell the coffee brewing.
And as much as we have so much more now, a lot of the things that were taken for granted in that earlier era no longer exist and have been, like, shaved off for the sake of efficiency.
Right.
A lot of, like, service within the service industry.
Yeah.
Hotel detectives. Like, I always remember there being in old detective books. They'd be like, they go talk to the hotel dick, and I'd be like, what? There's no hotel dick at the Motel 6 here. You know what I mean? Hanging out, like, checking out what's going on.
Like a pimply 18-year-old at the front desk who's...
Yeah. there's all these things that people were doing, these jobs that sort of got phased out because they weren't considered completely necessary. Mm-hmm. But it may have been a more relaxing, elegant life.
Well, I have nostalgia for time periods that I've never experienced. I have nostalgia for things that I never knew to begin with, you know? And I don't know why that is. I guess it's just sort of a reaction to an unsatisfying way of living now.
But I think that's very common. I know people love their like Merchant Ivory, presentations of people dressing for dinner.
Oh yeah,
and coming down, and they eat that stuff up.
Well, yeah, that's another good point. Is I mean, it's kind of hot now in the summer, so I'm not doing this as much. But I would like to take the time to dress up, wear a tie, wear a suit, even though I don't work in a profession that requires that. I'm not socioeconomically in the kind of group that would be expected, but I like the idea of a certain elegance that I think has been lost, and even though I never experienced it, I'm sort of bringing that back. So I guess that's another classic thing that I like to do. Is
we talk about hobos a lot on the show, right?
We do.
Tramps. And when you see like a tramp presented to you from years ago, even they have a lot more elegance than
they were like
today.
a lovable rapscallion. They were sleeping by your fence in the backyard, stealing your pie off the window. Maybe they'd rake your leaves for like a potato and some
we
milk.
don't know if that's true, but that's definitely the fictional portrayal of these tramps from the past.
Now they're all just fucked up on meth asking for cigarettes.
But when we go out to our local bar that we often go to, that's full of a bunch of like juggalos and just like basically people who are animals, that, you know what I mean, that are just acting in these strange ways. That's probably a product of an anything goes society, and that we've all just kind of gone our own direction with everything, and there's no more, I don't know. Yeah, you talk about the level of civility.
Oh yeah, I mean, I rant about this all the time. The fact that we live in this bang, bang, bang sort of society where also the internet, I think we've discussed before too, has caused people to be much more rude to each other because there aren't any repercussions for rudeness online. And so that started to permeate actual real interactions between people, where people will just be offhand, like, fuck you, fuck off. You bump into somebody, instead of saying, excuse me, they're just like, fuck you. And I've always said, if we went back to the time where there were gentlemen and there was honor and you could be like, ha-ha, run through with a sword if you were a dick, then I think people would be a lot more civil to each other.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm going to bring that back.
This has been listener feedback on the Warren and Bradley Show. If you'd like to get in touch, send your questions, comments, and concerns to podcast@warrenandbradley.com. Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
Very well. Welcome to Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show. Last week, I think we talked about this, but it didn't make it into the show. The Fred Willard arrest for lewd conduct. He recently appeared on Jimmy Fallon and claims that he did absolutely nothing wrong. Those of you who are not familiar with the story, he was arrested in an adult movie theater in Hollywood. Supposedly not a gay movie theater. It was straight porn.
But it was a porn movie theater.
But it was a porn movie theater. And he was supposedly whacking the old Kraken when he was in there in an undercover cop. Or I don't even know if he was an undercover cop, but he was just doing a routine sweep of the movie theater. Said that he was doing something unconscionable, and so he was arrested. They were making racy jokes on the Jimmy Fallon show. He was sort of trying to make light of the whole controversy. But it turned serious when Fallon said, "Fred, I know this must be a tough time." Willard replied, "It's been very embarrassing. It's as embarrassing as hell. But let me say this. Nothing happened. I did nothing wrong. Everything is being sorted out as we speak."
What do you think that means?
I don't know. Unless he had some sort of prosthetic penis in his pants and he was wanging it around, how could they mistake what he was doing?
Well, this is the thing, though. When you say he did nothing wrong, I don't think we care if people are masturbating.
I don't give a shit. No.
So, I mean, in that sense, we don't think he did anything wrong. But that's different than, like, him actually breaking the law.
Yeah.
Right? And then he may have done something wrong under the law.
Yeah.
I don't think the police officer just arrested Fred Willard for sitting there calmly watching the movie.
I wouldn't think so.
I don't see where the angle is at for the police officer on that one.
Well, I've said it 1,000 times. If you're not allowed to masturbate in a adult movie theater, where are you allowed to masturbate? Next story, Dane Cook jokes about Colorado movie theater massacre. A little too soon, maybe? Dane Cook is an idiot and not funny in any way, shape, or form.
Notoriously not funny, right?
Frat boys find him amusing.
Yeah.
But frat boys are also people who jerk off onto crackers and make each other eat them, so I don't know if they have the best criteria for judging funny.
Have you ever watched Dane Cook do stand-up?
I've seen some Dane Cook stand-up, and it made me violently angry just to watch him. It's the most obnoxious, obvious, stupid, lowest common denominator bullshit you could possibly imagine. That being said, though, the joke that he made... let's see, here's the actual joke. He says that supposedly the shoot... 3 weeks in a row for a train break!
Wow, we're gonna roll with these.
I know, it's been crazy.
This is a train break.
We had like weeks and weeks where there was no train break. Oh, what are you doing? You doing like a snot rocket into your hand?
I'll be right back.
We're just having some sort of mucus problem. He just blew his nose into his fingers, and now he's going to deal with that problem. As the train goes by, it's actually good timing, I suppose. Oh, that was a good train break. Where were we? Oh, I was about to read the, quote, joke that Dane Cook made about the theater shooting. So I heard that the guy came into the theater about 25 minutes into the movie. And I don't know if you've seen the movie, but the movie is pretty much a piece of crap. Yeah, spoiler alert. I know that if none of that would have happened, I'm pretty sure that somebody in the theater about 25 minutes in, realizing it was a piece of crap, would probably be like, ugh, fucking shoot me.
Wow, that's not a very good joke.
No, that's a really stupid joke. I have no qualms with people making jokes about anything. Whether you can debate whether or not it's in good taste. As long as the joke is funny, I don't mind. This was not funny. Dane Cook is not funny. Russell Brand was defending him, and also Daniel Tosh, because Tosh made some sort of rape joke recently, and somebody was offended. I do agree with the fact that comedians should be cut some leeway. All this constant anger about things that people said, being offended all the time. You're a comedian. You're supposed to be controversial. You're supposed to be
as a comedian, you're
people.
also supposed to be funny.
Yes.
So you're allowed to be criticized in that score.
Yes. So Dane Cook can just shut the fuck up. All right, and of course, the major story that broke pretty much right after we had recorded last week, so we didn't get it on the last episode, is the Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson
Yeah,
scandal.
I actually heard about this before Celebrity Minute. It's rare that celebrity news actually gets to me before I come and record the podcast. But yeah, I heard she was cheating on him with some director.
Oh, yes, she was. We have photographic evidence right here, Warren, if you'd like to
they're
take a
making
look.
it. I heard they're making it. I didn't see the pictures.
She cheated with the director of Snow White and the Huntsman, Rupert Sanders.
He's old, right? Old married?
He is 41, I believe, is married to a model, has 2 kids. She's 22.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Got it where you can, I guess.
Not too bad. Here are some of the pictures right here, Warren.
Oh, good.
These were taken on July 17th, I believe. I don't know where they are. They're like up against some fence somewhere.
It's weird because it's like the opening scene of Chinatown where he has those weird pictures and they're in the bushes. And
yeah.
It looks like that. It looks like some PI was taking
pictures. It looks like this weird stereotypical thing, like where are we going to go have our strange tryst? Here's one there. We'll post these on the website. There's a picture of him, like, it looks as though her pants are slightly pulled down, and he is thrusting his crotch into the back of her.
That's not our Pat? That I can't tell that. That's, no. Kind of looks like him from the side.
Yeah. Here they are making out in a car. Basically ridiculously stupid to be out in public fucking around with each other. I guess it was Us Magazine who broke the story. There were rumors going out that they had photographic evidence, and so Kristen Stewart actually released a statement to kind of head off the fact that these photos were going to be posted, where she says... This momentary indiscretion has jeopardized the most important thing in my life. The person I love and respect the most, Rob. I love him. I love him. I'm so sorry. I kind of feel, because I always thought that Kristen Stewart was hot. And if I ever met her, I was planning on hitting on her. And now I don't know if that's the case anymore.
What are you saying?
If she can cheat on Rob Pat, then she can cheat on me.
Wouldn't you be hoping you'd be the one she would cheat with? Wasn't that the point of you hitting on her?
Well, but...
Or are you hoping you get in a long-term relationship with Kristen Stewart?
I don't want to...
You're worried that she's going to eventually cheat on you after you establish this relationship.
I don't want to count my Kristen Stewarts before they hatch, but that kind of was the idea. The director was married to a model, Liberty Ross, pictured here. We'll post this photo as well. They have 2 children, one who is 7 years old and one who is 3 years old, I believe. Apparently his wife, Liberty Ross, just tweeted wow when she heard about the affair and then immediately deleted her Twitter account.
She tweeted?
Yeah, she said wow.
That's weird.
I know. But, of course, all the Twilight crazy fanatic fans are freaking out because they believe things they see in movies and think that they're both vampires and in love with each other.
Okay, is the Twilight thing done now? Or those
there's
more movies to make?
One more movie is coming out. I don't know if this is the last one or not, but it's coming out soon. But we have a response from a Twilight fan.
Yeah.
From England. Her YouTube handle is nuttymadam3575. She's had close to 2 million hits as she expresses her outrage over the scandal. We'll play it for you right now, and we'll post this video on the website as well, but here we go.
I said I wasn't going to make a video about this because I didn't want it to be true, because I thought that it was just photoshopped, and I thought it wasn't real, and I thought they're just making it up because they don't want it to be real. But I've just gone on PerezHilton.com, and Kristen's released a statement admitting to it and saying that she actually did cheat on him and saying that she's sorry, like that makes it okay.
How strange.
I know.
I feel like everybody needs to back off, okay? This is none of your business. This is
What?
none of anybody's business.
Yeah, it is none of your business.
But her releasing that statement, it's like saying, hello world, come on in. It's like saying it doesn't matter, it's okay.
Didn't she apologize in the
I
statement?
don't understand
She did,
how
yeah.
she could do this.
Oh, whoa.
Why? Why would you cheat on Robert Pattinson? What's the point of that? What do you stand to achieve
I know,
by
he's
cheating
so
on Robert
dreamy.
Pattinson with fucking Rupert, whatever his... Oh, I'm so not okay with this. Like, seriously though, leave them alone. Let them get over this by themselves, okay? Robston or whatever you want to call them. Never been a big fan of it. I think I'm a fan of them because of the movies, and I'm a fan of them because of their acting in the movies.
Wait,
and
didn't
the
you just say
books.
she's not a
And
fan of the
Stephanie Meyer.
relationship?
Yes. Why is she so fucking upset?
I'm not... You wouldn't walk into a shop and ask the sales assistant, hey, when was the last time you crapped? Because let's face it, that's inappropriate. That's someone's personal information, someone's personal life. You wouldn't do that, so why is it okay to ask Rob and Kristen? Why is it okay to butt into their lives and act like you deserve to be a part of their personal space? You don't, okay? If you're lucky, you get to meet them and maybe say a few words to them and maybe get a hug, a photograph, a signature with them at a premiere or an event or whatever. But you do not get to butt in, okay? You leave them alone. You fucking leave them alone. I'm so completely in shock that she's posted that statement. I can't get over it. I'll read the statement, okay? I'll read the statement.
Please.
I'm deeply sorry for the hurt and embarrassment I've caused to those close to me and everyone this has affected. This momentary indiscretion has jeopardized the most important thing in my life. The person I love and respect the most, Rob. I love him, I'm so sorry, okay? If you loved him that much, you wouldn't have done it. If you cared about him that much, you wouldn't have done it.
That's a good point.
That's true.
And if you wanted people to back off and not be involved, then you wouldn't have posted that statement. But, you see, the thing is, you were stupid enough to get photographed doing it, okay? Don't be so stupid.
Now she's angry that she got caught.
Yes.
Cheating? She's not angry she's cheating anymore.
I don't know.
I've never been Kristen's
She's
number
confused.
one fan. Never. But this is just, like, one step too far. This is just, like...
She wasn't a fan of hers in the first place? Did she just say that?
Supposedly. Oh, whoa. Now she's just totally...
For a couple
she's
people
totally
that she
losing
doesn't
it.
seem to care about their relationship or the people involved, she sure is pretty upset.
Well, I think she was planning on marrying Robert Pattinson herself at some point.
Well, then she should be happy.
She should.
I knew she would do this.
But she's also sad that he was heartbroken. She's just crying.
Well, I
now.
do share that with her. I am also a little... Oh, jeez.
God, this is actually kind of sad now.
And I thought it was photoshopped. And I thought it wasn't real, but it's real.
They do. To be fair, they do look kind of photoshopped.
She would do this. I feel so sorry for Rob.
See, it's Rob. She's
can't imagine what they're both going through right now. Just leave them alone and let them get on with this, okay? Just leave them alone.
Okay.
Okay.
That's unhealthy. That's weird.
Probably enough there. Yeah, originally I didn't watch the whole video originally, and I thought it was just going to be kind of funny. Now I'm kind of sad about the whole thing. For somebody who looks like she's in her, I don't know, mid to late 30s, who knows, it's insanely depressing to me that she is so emotionally invested in these characters that she is that upset.
It does seem strange, doesn't it?
It has no effect on her life whatsoever.
But this, I remember Princess Diana died.
Yeah.
And everyone was really, people were crying about that.
I wasn't.
Neither was I. And I couldn't understand. I wasn't really sympathetic with people either, because people were like, I'm so upset about this. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
She lives on the other side of the world. She's some woman.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad event. It was not the Robert Pattinson, Chris, I don't give a fuck about that. But, Princess dying. Yeah, that's sad. It's a tragedy. But
it's like,
it has no effect on me. I don't know her. I don't know anyone who knows her.
No.
If I have a family member who dies, that is sad. I will become sad. If I have a friend who has, a death in their family or something, I'm sad because I can see that my friend is upset.
Yes.
When it's somebody who I've never met, somebody who is nothing to me other than an image on a movie screen or a picture in a magazine, makes no difference to my life whatsoever.
No. And it shouldn't. Because I don't think that's healthy to be emotionally involved with people you don't know.
Yes.
That are basically images that you see.
We've talked before about this weird climate of outrage that we have in our society now, where because of the internet and Twitter and everybody expressing their views on everything, people get supposedly pissed off about things that don't affect them at all. And people also become emotionally invested in things that should not affect them at all anymore. It's just very strange to me. Hopefully Nutty Madam 3575 will pull herself together. Well, maybe she's got a shot at old Robbie now.
Oh, can you imagine?
All right, so that's the end of Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
This has been Celebrity Minute on the Warren and Bradley Show.
And we're back. So, last night, I had a sex dream. And I don't often have sex dreams, so I was quite pleased that something was actually going on in my sleep. I don't know how personal we want to get here, but I've never...
This is going to be pretty personal.
I've never had a wet dream in my life.
Neither have I.
Which I think is a good thing. Maybe it's because I satisfy myself with such regularity that there's no need for the nocturnal...
a chance to rest occasionally when it's
like, oh God, he's unconscious, finally. But I started having this dream, and it was just, with kind of this random woman, nobody I actually know, just a weird amalgam, and I was like, oh my God, she's hot. And we're at some beach or something, and, one thing started leading to another, and we started having sex, and my penis fell off. And I know that there's probably some deep-seated, Freudian thing that you could get into about that.
That's horrible.
Yeah, but it was basically fell off, and I was like, oh my God. And she freaked out, and I was like...
Rightfully so.
Oh, and I picked it up, and it was kind of it was this weird, almost like a sculpture of a penis, and I was like, ugh, trying to shove it back on, and it wouldn't stay. And at some point I got there's some weird clam or something, and I got glue out of, I don't know, it was a dream.
Holy
and I was
crap.
trying to glue it back on, and it wasn't working. And basically this made me think about, there are people in the world who have suffered some sort of catastrophic injury and have lost their penises.
Yes.
If this happened to you, how would you go on living? What would you feel about yourself? I mean...
I've actually thought about this in the past.
Yeah?
And, if you didn't have a penis...
Yeah.
I mean, you go on living, right?
Really?
Would you just be done?
I don't know. I mean, what do you do? What the fuck do you do?
There's a lot, but this is the thing. Aren't there enough things in life for you to go on living without your penis?
Not really. It's not like I'm using it much right now anyway, but I like the idea that I could use it if that ever came up. I mean, nowadays, if I'm out at a bar and I see a woman, maybe I'll start dating this woman. In the back of my mind, I know that I have a penis.
Yeah.
And if I needed to use that penis, it would be ready there on deck, ready to go. If I were without a penis and I met a woman at a bar, let's say you start a relationship, at what point do you bring up the lack of penis?
I imagine you probably don't start a relationship.
Ever, yeah. Do you think you would just go all the way and be like, all right, I have no penis now, so I might as well just go for complete sex change? And
No, you don't have to do any of these things. I mean, there are a lot of people in life that are going through life right now that aren't having sex.
Yeah.
There are many of those people, and they're doing all sorts of things.
Yeah.
That would just become your life. And I don't know, this may sound incredibly crazy to you, but if this did happen to you, I don't know if in 30 years you might not say it was the best thing that ever happened to you. Because it may change your focus on things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You may actually get the ability to be like, well, I don't have to worry about doing all that anymore, or like serving that master constantly.
Right.
And suddenly you're doing something else and you're achieving things.
So you think if I had no penis, my life would really be turned around? I'd become successful?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it'd be that bad.
So what if you had no penis?
Sorry. I kick mics. I would hope that would happen.
You would hope that you have no penis?
No, I would hope that I would like not just get really morose and depressed and be really sad about my lack of a penis, but that I'd be like, well, there are many things I can achieve in this life. There are things I can do to help people.
Yeah.
There are things I can build or create. I can do all sorts of things now.
Well, classically in the past, there were, monks, other people who decided that sex was such a distraction that they needed to take vows of celibacy and focus only on doing God's work or whatever they may have done. And in the past, in ancient Egypt and other cultures, eunuchs were considered more trustworthy because their minds were not on sex.
Eunuchs worked in the brothels.
They worked in brothels, but then they also, in certain cultures, would be in charge of finances, perhaps, because they weren't slaves to avarice. They didn't have the evil urges that men have.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's not the least appealing thing that's ever happened.
Yeah, I think it is. Okay, you're dating someone right now.
Yeah.
You have a girlfriend. I'm assuming you have a healthy sex life. I don't want any details. You don't need to give me any
You're
details.
not going to get any.
But if you just came home one day and were like, I don't have a penis anymore, how do you think your girlfriend would react to that?
Well, I assume it would probably be very destructive to the relationship.
Yeah.
Yes, that is true. But you're not in a relationship right now.
No.
And suddenly you don't have a penis, so you're not like ending something with anyone.
No.
You can still be friends with all your friends. You just don't have
Would you be friends with me if I didn't have a penis anymore?
I've never seen your penis. I don't know. Maybe you don't have a penis now. I don't know. But it's... So you could just go on with your life the way it is right now, but you also wouldn't have that constant, desperate desire to be with women that you can't fulfill because you couldn't be able to fulfill it.
It's
a little bit sad and desperate sometimes.
Every once in a while.
Yeah, it is. And maybe it would be like, it would simplify your existence to a certain degree.
Yeah, but there's certain things that could simplify your existence to the point where what's the point of having an existence anymore? Like if I had...
Well, that's what I'm asking you. Is that important to you?
Well, if I had no arms and legs, it would simplify things, definitely. Because I would be on a little cart and people would push me around and there would be a lot of things that I could no longer do. And that would make things much more simple. I would sit in a chair and I would eat.
Well, would you rather not have your arms and legs and a penis?
See, this is all a matter of degrees, because if I didn't have arms or legs, the potential for me being able to use my penis would probably be much less anyway. So,
yeah. But I'm saying, if you had to make that choice right now...
Yeah. God, no arms or legs or
See,
no
this
penis.
is insane that you would actually have to think about that.
Well, there are people who are kind of into that, though.
So this is your going to be life. You're going to live in a wheelbarrow and hope that these fetishists come and
You're the one who has to push me around.
Satisfy your penis.
And you have to help me in.
Well, the thing is, you can also record still. You still
That's
have your
true.
mouth.
Yeah.
You can still just talk and, still do the show.
I'd be much more compact.
There'd be a lot of, really strange women.
It would just be you in one of those, child carrier backpacks with me shoved in the back. And be like, her.
I could have you in a baby Bjorn, right in front of me. And we could just do it on one mic. It'd be really easy.
We've talked in the past about how if I lost my pinky, I would kill myself.
Yeah.
So penis is, I was going to say much larger than the pinky. It is, ladies. It's in proportion.
But it just gets back to people always thinking they need certain things in their life.
Yeah.
And when they actually lose them, they find it liberating.
Yeah, but you could do that. You could go on forever and ever and ever. We talk about homeless people a lot.
Yeah.
They don't have a home, so they don't have a mortgage they have to worry about.
Yeah.
They don't have a wife or kids that they have to worry about. But is their life better? No, obviously not.
No, but I can see why you wouldn't automatically choose to do it if I were to give you the option right now. But I'm also saying that I'm not saying that your life would automatically be worse. There's no way we can play this out.
No.
Unless we can get somebody on the show who this happened to.
Or if there's some way that you could reattach it perfectly, And I'm talking about the balls as well. In my dream, it was the whole unit, the entire genitals.
Oh, really?
The entire genitalia.
Well, that's worse.
Yeah, because then I would be, I don't know what sort of physical transformation would go over me. I'd just become very smooth and hairless, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, because you'd lose your testosterone production.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Years ago, I was thinking about it, and then I kind of like settled my mind that I think I could go on.
Well, hopefully it'll happen to you and not me, because you don't seem to care that much. I don't know what the old girlfriend would say, but... Well, don't worry, ladies. We both still have our penises.
Yeah, lucky you.
Oh, yeah.
This has been the Warren and Bradley Show, brought to you by Warren Van and Bradley Victor. For podcast news and information, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/Warren and Bradley. Follow the show on Twitter at Warren and Brad. Subscribe on iTunes and leave a review. For episode archives and episode pictures, go to warrenandbradley.com, and to contact the show, write to podcast@warrenandbradley.com.